Day 2 of NFL free agency, and to sum it up, it's been a bit like this. And I thought day 1 was bad. I wrote 8 articles, I made 2 videos, I had 3 cans of Red Bull. Today has just blown it up completely. And I've tried to make this video about 4 times, and every time I've gone to do it, the Eagles have announced something else. So I'm hoping that we can finally settle down and talk about today's moves. This isn't going to be a super edited video where I bring you loads of stats and stuff. It's more just having a discussion about the moves today, because there's been several and they're all going to be met with mixed opinion, and there's just no way that I can get a video out covering all of these individually. So this is going to be your whistle-stop guide to day 2 of free agency, a day where the Eagles have released Malcolm Jenkins, brought back a quarterback we thought they didn't believe in, moved Jaylen Mills to safety, and then signed Rodney McLeod. So there's a lot to get through. Buckle up, strap yourselves in, we'll get to it in just a moment. Before we do get into it though, guys, thank you so much for all of your support recently. Again, I hope you are all staying safe through the current pandemic. If you could leave a like, drop me your opinions down below, that'll be absolutely amazing. I'm sure there's going to be a mixed bag and plenty of discussion, and if you do want to discuss these further, we do have a Discord server which you can check out in the description. And as always, you can support Philly Sports Network by getting your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself and all of our writers at phillysportsnetwork.com. Alright, we're machines at the minute. I mean, we're not messing about. Also, excuse the haircut, alright? It's been a stressful 24 hours. So again, we're going to go through these in chronological order. Let's start with Nate Sudfeld. It's a move I genuinely didn't think would happen, purely because in the last 2 years, whenever the Eagles have needed backup quarterback play, he's not been the guy they've turned to. And most prominently, when he broke his wrist in the preseason of 2019 and Josh McCown came in, it was expected fill the void and Sudfeld would come back, but that didn't happen. And both times he has had to come in a game that isn't week 17, he's just handed the ball off. And that's not really the most encouraging sign when Josh McCown comes in and starts slinging it around and running around as if he's 24 years old. Like, it's a big contrast. It felt like the Eagles just didn't have that trust in Sudfeld, but maybe, just maybe, we're wrong. But very, very important. At the NFL Combine, Doug Peterson said that Nate Sudfeld has put himself in a position to compete and possibly become the number 2. So I don't think the Eagles are done. I don't think they trust him enough to be the devout backup guy, and it would not surprise me in the slightest if they go out and either draft a developmental talent or bring in someone like a Cody Kessler from last year or a budget free agent. I know there's been murmurs of Marcus Mariota. I don't know how much stock I put into those, but the problem is Sudfeld has only had preseason and very limited regular season experience. So if you're not going to drop him in the deep end, how is he going to learn to swim? It's a very interesting move. I like it in premise, it's stability. We know he's not exactly going to be breathing down Carson Wentz's neck anytime soon, but I don't like it from the perspective that the Eagles have had to turn to backup quarterback play in each of their last 3 years. And I'm not saying Wentz is injury prone, I'm not. He had a full 16-game season, but in the horrible reality that you do need a backup quarterback, I don't think the Eagles would be 100% all in on going with Sudfeld just yet. I think there's more to this. I'm very interested to see his development between year 2 and year 3, but I genuinely think there's more to this than meets the eye. There's probably going to be another quarterback signing or a drafting on the horizon. Okay, right, on to the next one. This is where things get a little bit juicy now, isn't it? Now we've got the boring things out of the way. Jaylen Mills, cornerback, or so we thought, is coming back to the Philadelphia Eagles, but as a safety. And this got the cogs turning. This got people thinking, what are the Eagles doing? We know they had 2 more decisions to make. One of them pertaining to Rodney McLeod, another pertaining to Malcolm Jenkins, both of which we will get to. But on the surface, I do like this move. I've been clamoring for one of the Eagles corners to move to safety for quite some time. It wasn't Douglas, but hey, it's a close second, right? It's going to cost the Eagles up to $5 million. It's not an expensive deal. And he did play safety at LSU and was relatively successful at it. He just got dropped into the deep end with the Eagles as a 7th round pick because Laerdis McKelvin went down. And then, well, never really had to give up the starting role. There was never that elite cornerback that came in. And the guys that were drafted to take on that role either got injured or had concerns of their own, or maybe just didn't fit the scheme quite enough. So Mills has grown into that starter. I think this will really benefit his skill set. We started to see a lot more range from Mills towards the end of 2019. Someone that was more patient in his play, that wasn't going to bite down on double moves, that was seemingly a little bit more aware of his surroundings. He was turning for the ball a bit earlier, and he seemed more confident more than anything else. And considering that he missed most of that year with a broken foot, it was relatively impressive. It was the best football we'd seen from Mills. And if the main problem is that he gets beaten down deep, the fact you can move him to safety and take away that threat of speed is at least a little bit encouraging. It's worth a go. Like, for $5 million, it's worth a shout. The other aspect of this is that he could fit the Malcolm Jenkins role, because the one thing that Jaylen Mills does extremely better than most other players on the Eagles is wrap up securely. The guy is a tackling machine, we know this, and I think it's very plausible that he's going to start playing inside the box or moving to that hybrid role, or maybe he splits responsibilities with McLeod, fostering quite a prominent role within this Eagles defense. Now, the other thing to note, well, here is what that means for the corners, because assumingly, it means that Ronald Darby's gone. It means that they're going to need at least one cornerback outside as a starter. So, in an ideal universe where Maddox doesn't move and neither does Jones or Douglas, you've got enough ammunition there if you absolutely had to. So expect at least one more defensive back signing, whether that's going to be a safety, whether it's a cornerback. We'll touch on that very shortly. Next up, the release of Malcolm Jenkins. This one stung. It stung a lot. I think it's a move that every Eagles fan in their heads saw coming and their hearts just didn't want to admit to. It was a very tough reality to face. And at the end of the day, I genuinely think the Eagles missed the boat. I think they've shot themselves in the foot, and Malcolm Jenkins stood his ground, knew that he wanted around $14 million, a lot of that money guaranteed after 2 years where none of it was guaranteed. And he said to the Eagles, hey, you made your bed, sleep in it, I'll walk. Maybe the Eagles called his bluff and Jenkins has gone to free agency, but the fact you've let that man walk, you didn't pick up his option and try and trade him, I think they've done, in a way, the best they can. It's sort of like cheating on someone and bringing them flowers. Like, you're doing as much as you can to make it up to them, never going to fully repair that though. Jenkins should have been paid a little while ago, and he just wasn't. Again, zero guaranteed money over the last 2 years, and I've said this in a few different videos, where the Eagles don't like giving guaranteed money up front. They like spacing it out. They like incentivizing, and you can't do that with someone that is playing every single snap, every single game at a very high level, even though his play did regress a little bit in 2019, and is a true leader and the heartbeat of that defense. Like, there may not be anyone more valuable, not just in terms of what he brings physically, but mentally and play recognition and getting younger guys lined up and showing younger guys their assignments. He is so valuable. He's a remote control homing missile for Jim Schwartz, and they're gonna miss that. That is a ridiculously hard player to replace. And we can say, yeah, why did he pay him $14 million at age 32? But age is relative to production and durability. If Ronald Darby was 32 and coming off the injuries he had, this would be very different. The fact that Malcolm Jenkins is an Iron Man of the defense, plays about as consistently as anybody I've ever seen, and is one of the most intelligent football players, strongest leaders, strongest community presences, someone battling social injustice off the field. Like, I genuinely think that age precedes that. He's one of those rare players like a Tom Brady. Now, I don't think the Eagles were totally wrong to move on from Malcolm Jenkins. They did what was right for the franchise. The Steelers let Jerry Porter walk in 2007, and in 2008 had the #1 ranked defense. The Patriots did it back in 2003, went on to win a Super Bowl. It happened. The Eagles had to get younger, and in a way, Howie Roseman has kept his word. He's not going to be overly loyal to players or sit in the realm of sentiment and end up giving money just because he's got a personal relationship with that player. But I think this instance genuinely was way outside that box. The Eagles made a massive mistake in not paying Jenkins a couple years ago. They almost shot themselves in the foot with Brandon Graham. They were lucky enough to bring him back after a breakout and a slight down year. If Brandon Graham had a much better year in 2018, I'm not sure he would have been back in 2019. Malcolm Jenkins has been as consistent as they come. He knows his worth now, and he's gone, hey, you didn't want to pay me then, you don't want to pay me now, I'll go and get the bag elsewhere. I think there's going to be notable upset from within inside the locker room. It would not surprise me in the slightest. But this is where this decision gets interesting though, because the Eagles also brought back Rodney McLeod, a 2-year deal worth $12 million. Now, what's really intriguing is if you take McLeod's deal and you take the Jaylen Mills contract and you add them together, what you get is a value of around what Malcolm Jenkins would have had if he had stayed. So you're getting 2 players for the price of 1 at safety. You're getting younger, you're attaining stability. Rodney McLeod also started 16 games last year after getting injured in 2018. I get that move. again, McLeod for me has been one of the most underrated cogs in that defense for about 3 years now, and he's only been on the team for 4. Like, I love what he brings to the table. I think he's got great range as a single high safety. You see less communication breakdowns with him than you did with Jenkins last year, and the impact he has, I think, genuinely again goes above and beyond the traditional role of a safety. So it was a no-brainer bringing Rodney McLeod back, but I do think the Eagles are going to be in the market for another safety because the depth chart is still pretty light. What the Eagles have essentially done is realize that they could lose 2 players at safety and they need new cornerbacks. They've let the most expensive and the oldest player walk. They've re-signed the younger one, and they've moved a cornerback to safety and given him a cheap deal. In terms of a business move, I understand it, but there's that emotional connection to Malcolm Jenkins that is always going to be there because for 6 years, that guy missed 1.6% of snaps. 1.6. It's just not something you can replace, and I think you are going to witness a defense with what feels like the heart sucked out of it in the phases of 2020. Now, the Eagles can draft a safety, they can sign a free agent or do whatever, but it's going to take a while for anyone to get to the level of leadership and intelligence and execution that Malcolm Jenkins brought week in and week out, and that's going to hurt. I think the Eagles have made a mistake in letting Jenkins go, although I fully understand the reasons why they did. So it's a double-edged sword. In the same way, it's like if they'd have kept Malcolm Jenkins through a lens of saying, well, I agree with the reasons why, but also it's failed reasons X, Y, and Z. We're going against his word again. That relationship between the fans and the media and the front office becomes further damaged, and that is not what you want to see. I think then it would also hurt from the standpoint of the team are still getting older. It's a lot of money guaranteed locked up, and the Eagles, if they are going to pay someone like Zach Ertz down the line, are going to need some fluctuating funds. They need a bit of flexibility. They wouldn't have that with Malcolm Jenkins. He's one of the only players that would demand it all locked up in a tight cage where it's not going to budge, because he has budged for every year of his contract so far. The amount of restructures and adjustments that guy's taken is unreal, and it's such a hard spot to look through because you can see both sides, but unfortunately it's ended in the way of a goodbye kiss between the Eagles and Malcolm Jenkins. But the good news is the safety position at least seems to have a plan in place. I think there's more coming. I think there's going to be more at cornerback, but for now there's at least an idea. There's at least a vision of saying, hey, let's move Jaylen Mills up, let's keep McLeod around, and more than anything, let's not forget Marken Manuel has a very, very good track record at converting corners to safeties. Just ask Ricardo Allen, just ask DeMonte Kazee. Both of them thrived over Manuel when moving from corner to safety. I think they're definitely going to play on that talent and try and use that to get the best out of Jaylen Mills. But what do you think though, guys? Let me know down in the comment section below. I know this video has been a little bit more serious than usual, but it's free agency and I'm about 3 Red Bulls deep. So thank you for all of the support you continue to give this channel. It would be amazing if you could hit that subscribe button. And as always, your daily dose of Philly sports coverage is at phillysportsnetwork.com. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.